Our next guest is my friend Adam Alleca. Adam's a great screenwriter. You know him most from Last House on the Left, the remake. I've read most of Adam's screenplays, and he's so good at creating these rich and intricate worlds. By the time this airs, Home with Topher Grace will come out. He's prepping his directorial debut with my buddy Tom Jane. It's a movie called Standoff. Today, Adam's gonna talk about his interpretation of Batman. His Batman movie is set in the Chris Nolan universe. It takes place after Dark Knight, but it's in a world where Dark Knight Rises doesn't exist.
My name's Adam Alleca, and what I'm going to pitch today is the version of Batman I've always wanted to see. It's going to be based on a series of comics that came out in the early 90s when I was about 9 or 10 called Knightfall. Now, if you're familiar with the Knightfall comics, I'm actually going to be deviating quite a bit, so I'm kind of just using them as inspiration, so keep that in mind. Just for context, to make this easier to understand, I think we'll probably put this pitch in the continuity of the two Nolan-verse Batman movies. It's as if Batman Begins and The Dark Knight has already happened, but this will be an alternate version of Dark Knight Rises, essentially. So Batman has just defeated the Joker. However, unlike Dark Knight Rises, the Nolan version, in this version, Batman has not gone into hiding and he is not injured. So he's still Batman at full strength. He's at full capacity. He's still the Batman we all know and love from The Dark Knight. So Act 1 is the fall of Batman. He also has a prodigy he's taken on. Now, for the sake of clarity, we'll call him Robin, though he doesn't really have the colorful costume or anything. He's more like Batman's tech support and trainee. So Batman's training this guy, this kid really, he's like in his mid-20s, maybe about 25. And you know, he has all the problems everyone who's 25 has. He's kind of hot-headed. Ideologically, he doesn't really see eye to eye with Bruce entirely yet. He's not quite as moral. So he's thinking, you know, if I have another 10 years to work on this kid, I'll get him in the right moral shape. He'll know how to do everything, and like, I'll get him there. I've got time. I don't have to worry about it. Meanwhile, while Batman is doing this, Bane comes to Gotham. And Bane looks over Gotham, and he sees an ocean of potential vice just waiting to be capitalized on. So Bane says, if I can just get Batman out of the way, then all this is mine. I can have all of Gotham. He starts a terror campaign around Gotham to attract Batman and draw Batman out. And for a couple of weeks, Bane starts observing Batman, seeing all his weaknesses, clocking everything about him. Eventually, towards the end of the first act, the two of them finally meet head-to-head for the first time, Batman and Bane. And Bane just dominates him. He's sort of a superior foe. He's been watching Batman. He knows all his weaknesses, and he just takes Batman apart. He breaks his back. Bruce isn't a paraplegic, but he injures him quite a bit. It's going to take him months to recover, and cutting-edge medical research and technology is going to have to be utilized, and biomechanical implants and the whole bit. So it's going to take Batman a while to get back on his feet. So now as Act 2 picks up, Bane takes over the city virtually overnight. Now that Batman's gone, he just sweeps in, raises criminal cartels, brings in all the vice overnight, you know, gun running, prostitutes, drugs, everything, you name it. Batman, Bruce Wayne, is observing this from his crippled bed, you know, unable to rise, just in horror, and he says, we gotta do something about this. So he goes to his protege, Robin, and he says, you know, I didn't think you'd have to do this for at least 10 years, but you have to assume the Batman mantle, and you have to take over for me, and you have to save the city. So he's like, you gotta try and stop Bane, and I'll help as much as I can, tactically, from here. Robin assumes the Batman mantle, becomes the new Batman, and goes off and tries to bust up Bane's cartels. He does okay, but eventually he comes head-to-head with Bane, just like the old Batman did. And again, Bane is just so ruthless and so prepared and so cold-blooded that he just dominates and destroys the new Batman. So he runs back to Bruce, the injured Bruce, in his invalid bed, and says, you know, your moral codes are holding me back, old man. You know, I'm losing because of you. You never anticipated fighting somebody as ruthless and as merciless as Bane, a terrorist. He has no rules, he's completely immoral, he's ruthless, he's killing civilians, he's doing all these things you didn't anticipate. And you have to fight fire with fire. You know, I have to use Bane's own terror tactics against him in order to beat him. He's forced to watch from his bed as Robin, as the new Batman, builds a new lethal, deadly Batman suit. It's almost a combination of RoboCop and Predator. So he has a lot of the accoutrements of both of them. So he has missiles that can pop out of his shoulder, and he has guns built into the arms, or it's almost like the Iron Man'd out version of Batman. I'm a big fan of drone analogies, because obviously that's very relevant to the current military-industrial complex and warfare as it exists today. So I'd be very interested in see how automation would come into that, and have his drones flying around, drones patrolling the streets. He might even have some sort of minor low-level ground vehicle that patrols around. In between his hours, he's basically constantly jacked up on amphetamines and vitamins to keep him going so he never has to stop. So he's just at his job 24/7, and when he's not out patrolling as Batman, he's monitoring everything at once, just like information overload. So he's got the millions of CTV style screens, just watching everything at once, getting protein injections, and he's super lean and constantly just wired and jacked up, almost like, Case from Neuromancer. He's just constantly watching everything, assessing everything, and then he'll hop out and go back out again. He doesn't have time to sleep today, so he just mainlines more chemicals to keep him going. As a person, even when he's not in the Robo-Batsuit, becomes a machine unto himself. To contrast old Batman and new Batman, picture that scene from Batman Begins at the harbor, where Batman, I think, makes his first costume appearance, and then imagine RoboCop dealing with that situation, and then just imagine Robo-Batman just flying down, skidding to a stop in the ground like a big hunk of lead, and just mowing guys down. So it's finesse versus brute force. So then he goes at Bane hard, and he breaks every Bat code in the book. He's blowing up Bane's buildings, gunning down his men, he's killing bad guys by the dozens. This is a full-on new Batman who abandons all the past Batman morals. And eventually he smokes Bane out of his hiding place, out of his lair, and in a spectacular chase he chases Bane across the city, and eventually he catches up to Bane, and Bane is horrified of this new Batman because he's even more merciless and ruthless than Bane is. And part of the weak spots that he relied on to beat the old Batman the first time was his code. But now this new Batman doesn't follow any rules and doesn't seem to care about loss of life, so he doesn't know what to do. So Bane is defeated, and he's at the new Batman's mercy, and he ends up begging for his life. The new Batman says, well, my predecessor's policy, Bruce's old policy, to not kill anybody and to spare villains and to put them into Arkham Asylum, that's weak. That's irresponsible. I have to kill you. Because it's like, if I put you in Arkham Asylum, you escape, you just do this all again. I've got to kill you for the greater good. I can't let this immature code get in the way of that. So surprisingly, at the end of the second act, Robin, the new Batman, brutally kills Bane, just in cold blood, just executes him. Moving to the third act, which is the return of the true Batman, Bruce, now recovering and learning to walk again, watches in horror as the public and the media embrace this new kill-happy fascist tyrant of a Batman. This really plays in to the conservative mindset and all their media networks and their talk radio and how they make money. So it's in their interest to embrace this new Batman because he's American. He's a red-blooded American. He's killing guys. He's got zero tolerance policy. He's beating the terrorists. It's in their best interest to tout this new Batman as the scourge to these, intangible enemies that are real or imagined that, conservatives always imagine are everywhere. I think one of the most interesting things about the movie is that you could have a social political subtext in that Jim Gordon could be a prominent character, obviously, because he's still the commissioner. And Gordon obviously was friends with the old Batman, but he does not approve of this new fascist Batman. The old Batman didn't even kill people. He's not doing stuff that's even remotely as bad as the new Batman. So if a civilian speaks out against the new Batman, or anybody, any liberal sort of goes against the media blitz of positivity that accompanies the new Batman's reign, he suppresses it. He doesn't want that getting out, so he wants to also control media and suppress anything bad being said about him. He wants to control the image of Batman. In terms of seeing the fascism of the new Batman in play and how he evolves and seeing his brutality grow over time, if we were to use classic DC Batman villains, it would be interesting to use one who's not entirely bad to show sort of like the moral gray area that this new Batman is wading into. So I've always really liked Killer Croc, and I've always wanted to see Killer Croc in a Batman movie. And he's not really that fantastical of a villain. He's basically a guy that just has a genetic disorder and is scaly and oversized and monstrous looking, but he's just misunderstood. So people have painted Killer Croc as a monster his entire life and shunned him and treated him like a circus sideshow, and that's the reason he's sort of become what people treated him like, but he's sort of a tragic, almost Phantom of the Opera-like story. So it would be interesting if there was a situation where new Batman, Robo-Batman, fascist Batman, is up against Killer Croc, and Killer Croc kind of gets in over his head and is maybe in a situation where there's civilians or a child involved, but we know Killer Croc that he's not really gonna kill anybody for no reason. So we sort of know that he's just a big lug being manipulated and used by Bane or whoever. Ostensibly to save a small child or to save a civilian, the new Batman brutally kills him and just like mows him down, like better safe than sorry, almost like, a preemptive drone strike type of thing. It's just like, well, I can't really tell if this is going to go bad, if you're going to kill anybody. What the hell, I'll just kill you just to be safe. Just, whatever, just blows up the whole area, just mows him down. And this would be an early indicator for the audience that, oh wait, I think this new Batman is starting to head off down the wrong path, because he didn't really, killing these scumbags, it's kind of ambiguous whether or not they deserved it. But this guy, we got to know Killer Croc. We knew that he wasn't really that bad and that he didn't have to kill him and he wasn't really going to hurt anybody, and that was just like overkill, That was 50 cops all unloading their clip into one guy with a knife. It was too much. So the third act is all about the old Batman, the moral Batman, the new fascist Batman coming head to head. Actually, the final battle in the Knightfall comics is not particularly spectacular, so it would have to be amped up for the movie. But I did like the context. It was in the Batcave, and Batman basically used knowing the Batcave and knowing his own space and his own mansion against the new Batman. The new Batman doesn't know where he's hiding because he doesn't know the Batcave that well and he doesn't know all the secret passages, so he's firing around and destroying the place. And then Batman is always staying out of grasp in the shadows and needling him psychologically and saying, you betrayed everything, I'm disappointed in you, you're not truly Batman, you're just a child pretending to be Batman. Throwing all his toys out of the pram, stuff like that. Through a combination of making him expel his ammo, he eventually gets him in the right position where he's out of, he's out of bullets, he's out of missiles, he doesn't have anything. And then Batman swoops out of the shadows and makes his move. He pops out here, destroys this part here, cripples his leg motors there so he can't move. He goes back in the shadows, he pops out on the other side, and in this way, he just slowly takes apart the new Batman until the new Batman is just sort of lying on the ground, this sort of like almost Tetsuo the Iron Man-esque, like smoking, heaving wreck where he can't even lift his arms anymore and he can't really move. Robin repeats the ethos, the creed he said earlier to Bane when he was killing Bane, and he said, if this is truly what you believe is right, you have to kill me, you have to break your code, instead of just doing what's best for your selfish code, which is really for the benefit of your own ego. What's actually best for Gotham is that you kill me so I can't escape and never do this again. You've got to kill me, Bruce. Kill me. Bruce says, no, I'm not going to break my code for anybody. I'm still not going to kill you. Robin is very determined to get this final moral victory, even in defeat, and he says, then you're weak. And Batman says, well, no, that's the difference between people like you and people like me, is that I'm not going to confuse morality with weakness like you do. So Batman sticks by his code, he defeats and puts away the new Batman, and he resumes his place as the protector of Gotham. What I've always really liked about this story, ever since I read it when I was a kid, and I've always wanted to do it justice, was the fact that it plays with the idea that that larger-than-life figureheads or icons, like Batman or like the President or even like God, are really just ideas, and those ideas can be used for good or they can be corrupted and be used for bad. And it really just depends on who happens to be wearing the mask at any given time.
What if Tarantino made a Batman movie? They don't just exist in some writer's head. They're a little too out there. If you'd like me to keep making more, please share this with all your friends. I hope you enjoy them.